afternoon. This is Big Jack with the Pull Podcast. I have Brooke Robichaud. Am I saying that correctly?
Robichaud.
Robichaud. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking.
I'm glad to hear it. Thanks. I appreciate you taking the time out of the day to come and talk to us on the show. Love to learn more about you and hope that we can reach some people and maybe help some people get sober, if not inspire them, if not just give them a little bit of inspiration to do better and then try this out, because this is not an easy thing that we face on a daily basis, right?
It is definitely not easy. I think getting sober it can feel impossible. It's definitely harder than staying sober. But once you find your community and get into it, there's no other way I'd want to live now, you know?
I am in full agreement of that. Ever since, for the last decade, I didn't even know what life was, I don't think. And I just really started living it 10 years ago. So, there's that training wheels stage where you're kind of just navigating without the anesthetization of a substance and without that buffer that helps us, become comfortable with the world. That for me, at least, was the reason I was able to navigate life in so many aspects. And now that I have it just feels like, there's no ceiling. But if you don't mind, why don't you give me a little bit of your background? So it sounds like you're in recovery too.
Yeah, I am. I actually got clean and sober almost 9 years ago. August 2nd, I'll be 9 years.
Congratulations. So 2016-ish?
Yeah, 2016 was a good year.
I'll bet. Looking back on it, probably one of the best years of your life, right?
I couldn't even believe how quickly life turned around and started changing for me. It was absolutely wild. I came into recovery just hating myself. I couldn't look in the mirror. I felt like a fraud everywhere I went. I worked in the wedding industry and I worked with kids. And every time I went to work, I'd be like, if these people knew what I was up to, they wouldn't let me anywhere near their husbands or anywhere near their children. And I just had this sense of doom, at any moment, everything could fall apart. I felt like if anybody knew who I really was and what I was really up to, no one would want to be my friend. I would be alone. I couldn't be forgiven. I just felt so hopeless. And, getting into recovery, first of all, I tried to stay sober on my own, it was okay until Friday hit and all my friends started going out and the FOMO came up and I was like, well, maybe I was overreacting,
Right.
And instead of going out with my friends, I went to a recovery meeting and, I learned that first meeting, I'm powerless over alcohol. And from that day, something shifted for me because I never thought I was powerless. I thought I was defective. I thought I was just a bad person. I wanted to be good so bad, but no matter what I did, I kept ending up lying, cheating, stealing, drinking, using, just hurting people around me and being someone I didn't want to be. And I couldn't figure out how to do anything differently.
Yeah, well, so I can identify with exactly what you were saying, right? I felt like I was a fraud. There was this facade that I was putting out there that I thought everybody wanted to see, but turns out it wasn't actually my authentic self. And once you get on the other side of that and you realize who you are, start falling in love with yourself, it's a whole process, right? And I want to hear more about your experience with that. But, everything about me was a lie. It was literally telling everybody what they wanted to hear. That whole impending doom, that the doom and gloom that, like you said, could fall apart at any moment. You're really just hanging on by the skin of your teeth and, waiting for that proverbial ball to drop, right? And soon they're going to discover who I am. And like you mentioned, just nobody wants to hang out with me, or if they knew who I really was on the inside, I'd be this black sheep outcast. But that's probably one of the greatest gifts about getting into recovery, at least for me, was the fact that I discovered who I was, fell in love with myself, and then presented it to the world and found out hey, it's not as scary as I thought it was. But what was your experience with that?
With coming out as a sober person? Or?
Yeah, I guess so, right? Without the buffer, obviously, yeah. It's a little weird at first. I couldn't make eye contact with people for 6 months at least.
Oh my gosh. Well, I changed so many things all at once. It was just a hot mess. I got into recovery and then 30 days in, I had been eating my weight in sugar every single day, trying to cope with life. I don't
know anything about that.
I just picked up a new vice sort of thing because it was so uncomfortable to sit in those feelings and to be around other people. I had a friend of mine just describe this perfectly, but I didn't know I was so self-conscious. I didn't know I was so insecure. I didn't know I was so anxious until I took my first drink, and all of those things went away and I felt like I could finally be myself, right? And then that was my tool from like 16 to 29. That was how I interacted with people, how I let myself out, and it worked until it didn't. So coming into sobriety, I was like a karaoke host too, and I liked to party. I like that was my whole identity, was this party girl. My drunk self, my friends called Brunk, which is Brooke drunk.
Yeah, no,
Like
it's
it was
so
a
good.
whole personality.
So good.
And when I lost that, it was really difficult, but I was like grasping for anything else to kind of give me that social lubricant. And sugar was the first thing. Copious amounts of coffee was the first thing too. And chain smoking cigarettes. That habit got way worse after I quit drinking.
Yep.
And so 30 days in, I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't feel any better. I want a better life. If I'm not going to drink, I don't want to stay stuck in this like bullshit. Right. So I joined like a food program and got that under control and ended up like practically being a health and wellness influencer. Like I stopped sugar. I don't know if you've heard of Bernstein, but it's a very intense detox sort of thing, but for food. You go in, you see a nurse, you tell them everything you ate today. They give you a B12, B6 shot. And you're just really accountable, and you've got doctor's appointments all the time. I ended up losing 80 pounds in 10 months.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I was literally physically, emotionally, spiritually a completely different person within 8 months of my recovery. And everything, I mean, it was hard. I lost a lot of friends along the way. I had some really horrible tragedies happen like right from the get-go. 2 months into my journey, right before I took a 2-month chip. And chips are just how we celebrate recovery in a 12-step program for anyone that's not familiar. So every month they give you a little coin. I was actually kind of pissed off 7 days in that they didn't have a week coin, because I was like, this shit's hard.
Yeah, I should have at least 7 24-hour chips right now in my pocket. Yeah.
I found out there's another program that deals with a different substance that did have a 7-day chip. So I went there.
That a girl.
Yeah, I was like, those little coins were a big motivator. But it was like 2 days before I was going to get my 2 months. And my aunt was actually, her life was taken. And me and my mom went to go check on her to see if she was okay, and showed up, and the ambulance was there and the police were there. And I was just in such disbelief that this could even be a reality. Like it felt like something out of a scary movie. I'd never had to deal with like anything like this before, not even close. Most people never have to ever experience anything like that, losing a family member that way specifically. And we spent all day talking to police, and, you know, it was absolutely traumatic and horrific. And I just thought like, oh, I'm going to drink tonight. Obviously, like you can't get through this stuff sober. This is why they invented alcohol. Like this is too much. And,
yeah,
you know, luckily I'd been to enough meetings and made enough connections with people, and everyone kept saying like, pick up the phone before you pick up a drink. And I had a list of numbers of women, and I just went through the list and I started texting every single one of them and just being like, hey, I need help. I feel like I should drink, and this is what happened. And of course we drink over these things, right? Like nobody stays sober through this stuff, right? And, you know, not everybody, but a lot of them got back to me. I stayed on the phone all night, talking to women and just trying to convince them that I was allowed to drink. And they kept telling me, no, you can actually get through this sober. You don't have to drink over this. Drinking's not going to help. You're just going to feel worse in the morning. Like if you stay sober tonight, things will get better. This too shall pass, all those cliches. And, you know, one lady, because I was like, I don't know if I'm even non-alcoholic. Like my friends drank more than me. And, you know, I didn't lose everything. And, you know, like, maybe I'm just overreacting. Maybe I wasn't really an alcoholic. And then she was like, well, if you're not an alcoholic, then just don't drink. It's no big deal. Like you don't need a drink if you're not an alcoholic. If it's doing bad things in your life and, you know, you haven't got good results from it, but you're not an alcoholic, then just don't drink. And I was like, what Jedi mind trick is this?
Reverse psychology.
Yes. Either way, I'm not drinking tonight. Is that what you're telling me?
Right.
So I went to bed sober that night, and I woke up sober, and it was just like, holy shit, what else can I do? Like that felt impossible.
Honestly, yeah.
Impossible. Like there was no space in my brain that would have happen, that I wouldn't have drank through that.
Well, I give you a lot of credit, to be honest. And I'll interject real quick is that for me, at least, that picking up the phone thing was the hardest part because I knew I was going to get talked out of it and I didn't want to at some point. And you had mentioned not losing everything. I had a pretty low bottom. However, like, it still didn't matter. If I was able to get my hands on it, it was going to happen. And like the last thing I wanted to do was pick up the phone for somebody to talk me out of it. So do you believe that there was like any kind of divine scenario that was involved in that? Is it just something that you look back and it was thank God for these women and relationships you had built?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that I didn't trust myself or my thinking. And I was so willing to just kind of listen to suggestions and do anything other than what I was doing. So that really, really helped. Also, I was just batshit. Like I wasn't eating sugar. I wasn't drinking. I had cigarettes at the time, but it was just like everything hurt and everything was so chaotic that I didn't really know what to do or where to go. So I just surrendered and I listened to what other people had to say and just tried their way instead of what I had been doing because I knew the results I was getting and it was bleak. And when I looked at drinking again, it felt like when I did that, play the tape out and looked at what was my life like if I keep drinking, and there's no coming back from it. Like it was so hopeless. And, my cousin had passed away in May. I got sober in August. So May, earlier this month was I think it was his 9th year anniversary of his passing. And he took his life because of addiction. Like I watched my cousins living on the downtown east side. My brother's dad lives on the downtown east side here in Vancouver. And if you haven't ever looked at what that looks like, it is absolutely devastation. I've lost family to this disease. I've watched every single person that put a drug or alcohol in their body in my family suffer and not find any success. And, I just didn't want that life. And so I had willingness, which only came from hope. And I got hope from hearing stories of other people who had gotten through this. And that's why I really feel like podcasts specifically are so powerful, because hearing a message of somebody feeling like you felt and being where you were, get through it and change and be forgiven and find hope and heal and become a productive member of society, that saved my life. And they didn't have podcasts like this in 2016. There was 2 recovery podcasts.
No. And that's the other thing too, is there's a shame component to it to some degree, because it's not socially acceptable, or, whatever my head was trying to tell me, maybe it was just my disease talking to try to keep me out there longer. But it was I'm going to run into somebody. And the funny thing about that is if you run into somebody, then they probably have the same problem you do. So what's the big deal? But the podcast portion of it, yes, luckily I'm in a place in my life right now where I don't mind if people know I wear my sobriety and my recovery like a badge. But there are a lot of people that can't do that. And so having a platform outside of these anonymous 12-step recovery type meetings, because I look at some celebrities that are out there and they talk about their sobriety and their recovery, and I'm just good for you. I mean, people have to have a platform to at least I don't want to say influence, but to at least let people know, it's really breaking the stigma to a degree, right? That's what we're doing. And there's no braver thing, in my opinion. You get vulnerable, right? And those are things we're used to doing at a level in which hopefully everything remains anonymous. But when you do it on a podcast, it's a little bit different. And so, I applaud you and what you're doing and what you're trying to do for sure. And I'm sad for your losses. And it is scary out there. I imagine there's, people always talk about Skid Row in Southern California. And I imagine that's what you were describing in Vancouver, their version of Skid Row. And ever since, coming out of COVID and things of that sort, it seems like there's a Skid Row in almost every city now. That whole family aspect of it too, what you were describing. I do believe it's a family disease too. I got hit with the mental illness on one side and alcoholism on the other, right? Out of 3 children, somebody was going to get both of them. And I did. But yeah. So you went through this program, you're getting through all these really, really tough hurdles. But is it feeling like a win when you had mentioned waking up in that morning and said you could do everything, so that must've felt like a win.
It was just anything's possible after doing that. I couldn't even have a fight with my mom on the phone without picking up a drink before. And now I just got through the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my whole entire life. And I just kept thinking, what else can I do? What else is possible? And I got on a plane for the first time in my life and went to an all-inclusive resort in Mexico 4 months sober.
Wow.
With
And
like a
didn't
bunch of my
drink.
family. I didn't drink, no. And the craziest thing is a woman that was in my step group ended up in the same resort, like really close to where I was. And she was there the same time, just came a day later and left a day later. So I had support there. And
That sounds like God.
yeah, it was absolutely God. And not only did I not drink, but I didn't eat sugar. I didn't like go off my food plan. Like I stayed with all you can eat, all you can drink everywhere around me. And I'm like staying on this path. Right. And, when I got there and I had lost a whole bunch of weight and I was put in a bikini for the first time and like just dressing up to go to this like weird Mexican club on the resort and like totally sober. It was just so wild, but I was like so present for the first time in my life. And I remembered everything, like the yucky feelings too, which is what I'd always tried to avoid. But the joy was so much more as well. It was so incredible. And, I kept thinking like, I would have missed this. Like I would have gotten here, gotten drunk and had missed all of these little miracles like everywhere around me going on this trip for the first time.
It sounds like a process of becoming comfortable in the uncomfortable, I'm
Yeah.
sure you took it out on the cigarettes maybe a little bit, but like, in Mexico, they're probably a lot cheaper. So no big deal. One thing at a time, right? Or in your case, a couple.
Well, I actually ended up quitting on that trip. So everyone,
oh my God.
I know everyone,
You're a glutton for punishment.
My philosophy was like, if I'm going to feel like shit and like complete chaos and these highs
Bring
and
it all
lows, I
on.
might as well just do it all at once. Like, let's rip all the Band-Aids off. But I was actually, we were leaving the next day and everyone that went was getting like dental work done because it's so much cheaper in Mexico. So all these people that I went with, they all had like these gorgeous teeth. They got whitening done and everything. And I'm like, oh, I want to get something done. So I had this like laser treatment done on my gums and it was so scary. Like I was in this mall that looked completely abandoned with this one nice store that was like the dentist's office. And I'm like, oh, this is how people lose kidneys in Mexico. Like, what am I doing?
You're going to wake up out of anesthesia, missing a kidney. Yeah.
Yeah. I got sober just to die in Mexico, I guess. But so I got this gum thing done. And as soon as I was done, they're like, okay, well, you can't smoke cigarettes for 10 days. And I was like, you should have told me this before you touched my face. Like,
right?
If I'm going 10 days, I'm going the rest of my life. So,
and that's amazing. All this stuff is just kind of happening for you to some degree while you being present and saying yes to a few things, obviously, right? This segment of the Pull Podcast is brought to you by Heartwood Home Detox. Okay, so no need to speed up or anything, but so you're coming back from that trip. You got 6 months of sobriety. What's next for you? What does that look like?
So then I turned 30 sober and I was hosting karaoke here and there and I still liked going to the bars and I still liked, being a part of that life. And I had my birthday party in a bar. We dressed it up like a prom. Everyone wore prom dresses and we had something called a yearbook where people would sign with their pictures and a big photo balloon wall and just like had the most fun. Sang karaoke, like all these things I never thought I was going to do sober. I had planned on drinking on my 30th birthday since I turned 20. Like I was like, it's going to be, of course I'm going to drink over this. Like this is going to be the most fun. I'm going to be the most drunk. I used to have like pretend bachelor at parties so I could get free alcohol. Like,
that's brilliant. Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
So like, I don't know, like I really planned out the days I was going to drink. It was like my 30th birthday and my bachelorette party were going to be wild. And, so my 30th birthday was sober. And then me and my husband decided, like we'd been engaged for quite a while. We'd been together for 7 years. We decided we were going to get married. So I had a bachelorette party sober.
Wow.
Yeah. And we had all the penis balloons and karaoke again. Like
all the fun stuff, the cookies. Yeah.
Besides the alcohol. And it was honestly such a blast. Like there's definitely moments where I felt like uncomfortable in my own skin. And, I suffered with anxiety and panic attacks most of my adult life. And alcohol was a big self-medication for that. And so I had to learn to just have a panic attack and just embrace it and be like, this is going to happen and I will get through it and I'm not going to die. And once it stopped having that hold over me, it got easier and easier because I used to have a panic attack about having a panic attack. Like I'd be so
Of
afraid
course.
of panicking in public. It was so embarrassing to me that it would give me a panic attack.
Me and you would never be doing this right now. Yeah.
No.
Or for me, like, back in 2015, 16, 17 or whatever, like that's awful. I used to remember when I got asked to speak at a 12-step meeting or what have you, like, I was like, I need to drink just to go up there and share, but that like defeats the purpose. But like, that's kind of like, I know exactly what you mean, right? Like I want attention, but don't look too close, right? I want all the attention, but don't look too close.
Oh my gosh, that's so relatable. I'm still struggling with compliments too. Like I'll go do things and put myself out there, get out of my comfort zone, do the anxiety. Like I speak on stages. I just performed at an open mic, like an original song that I created. And I was shaking so bad. My leg was shaking. I could barely play guitar and I had to keep stopping and like breathing and then starting again. But that's just where I am. I can't change it. Like I'm not super confident at it yet. Maybe someday I will be. Maybe it'll always feel like this, but I'm doing it anyway. And every time I do that, it gets easier and easier. And I feel like, oh, okay, so what? I'm going to have an anxiety attack. So what? My leg's going to shake. So what? I'm going to stop and giggle in between this. Like, that's just where I'm at right now. And I can accept that today. It was mortifying to me before. Like I could never put myself out there and feel anything less than perfect, like I was so concerned about what other people thought of me. And now I'm just like, I want to experience this. I want to try this. I want to give this message to the world. I want to put this out. I want to create something, but I still struggle when people try and compliment me on things that I do. I'm just like,
well, listen, I am super grateful that you even said that and got vulnerable with that, because this is my second or technically my third podcast ever. And quite frankly, I didn't know if this is something that I wanted, right? I don't know if I want to be out there in the ether. The internet's kind of forever in some ways. And so, putting myself out there to basically, there's a bunch of trolls out there and who knows what that's going to look like. But also at the same time, I come from a place where like, I believe that this can help people. Mm-hmm. And if I can be the vessel to do that, or, by having guests on like yourself with powerful stories that people can hear that want to stimulate some change, like, who am I to hold back? Like, this is my purpose, is my opinion, right? To some degree. And like, if it's just me and my own little feelings and fears and things that are holding me back, like, recovery and sobriety in general has taught me that like, I just need to jump in and then I'll figure it out from there. Right. And it sounds like that's what you were doing early on too. And even to this day, so you went from, I imagine, being in the wedding planning business and all that, and then going to karaoke and then singing an original song though. That's way up there. Do you play any instruments?
I dabble in guitar. I wouldn't say I play guitar, but I learned enough so that I could like write music. Like I learned enough chords so I could write songs because I love writing music. My dad was a poet and a writer and stuff too. I think I probably got that from him. And it's just been a way I've always liked to release emotions, feelings, thoughts, ideas. I still do sometimes, but I used to write a lot of parodies like to popular songs. I call it a band. We'd go to karaoke, three girls, we'd go to karaoke covers, and we'd sing like parodies of songs, but we made them about Christmas. So we called ourselves the Christmas Shees.
I like it. I'm surprised it didn't have something with your name in it, considering you had the Yearbrook and the Bronc and like, I'm surprised they didn't want to, if you were the lead singer, they didn't have some sort of play on Brooke. That's funny.
No, I didn't want to make it all about me.
No, of course not. Again, like I said, look, but don't look too hard.
Yeah.
Right? This segment of the Pulled Podcast is brought to you by Creekside Recovery. So at this point, life is transitioning for you. It sounds like you started a company called Sober Biz.
Yeah, so that happened a little bit later. I was in between like my 30th birthday and our bachelorette party. Some really big shifts happened in my life. And, I did my step 4 and 5. And for those of you that are listening that don't know, the step 4 is basically you write like a list of everybody you think owes you an apology. And then you find out you're the asshole. And then you share that with your sponsor or whoever a support is for you. So I was going through that process. of kind of looking at all of the things I'd been through in my life and everybody that I thought hurt me and all that kind of stuff. And it was all so raw and it was all right at the surface. And I just felt like I was going to explode. And I'm also looking at all these things that I had done to people and how I reacted when my feelings get hurt. And, just it felt so intense, and not having alcohol or a lot of tools at the time because I was still pretty new in recovery. And there's also these big things happening, like a wedding coming up and everything. Like I just had this like, I don't even know what to call it. Not an epiphany, but it was like
reality check.
It wasn't a reality check. I just I felt like I needed to just get honest with my life. Like I think what it was step 9 is where you kind of confess your sins to everybody, right? And you make amends for everything that you've done wrong. And I knew from going to meetings, that's when life starts getting better, is after your step 9. That's what everybody
100%.
was saying, right?
1000%.
So I'm going to start step 9 while I'm in the middle of step 4. And I'm just going to release some of this pressure that's being built up in me. And I decided to, because I was getting married, I didn't want to walk into a marriage with a lie, in a lie, right? So I got completely honest with my husband. I told him absolutely everything. I did the amends that you're not supposed to do, and that could hurt other people. And I was fully prepared for him to leave me. I thought there's no way he's going to forgive me for any of this, or that we can move forward from any of this. And, I told him everything, and he held me and he said, "I'm so glad you don't have to hold on to this anymore. I knew something was wrong. I'm so happy it's done now." And he just held me and tried to console me. I don't know if that's because he needed Al-Anon and it's just codependent, or if it's that he has a huge heart, but
he may qualify for a different program. Yeah.
So I don't know. It was the first time I really felt unconditional love in my entire life. I was like, is this how God loves me? Is this this is real love, family kind of love, right? And that went so well. I was like, okay, let's tell everybody everything. And that did not go well.
Of course not.
And I heard a lot of people doing that and ruined a best friendship of 12 years. And, it just, life got really chaotic. And I spent a lot of days. This is actually a walk-in closet that was in my house. I've converted into a podcast studio, but right in this corner beside me, I would sit there in between an IKEA shelf and the wall and just cry, hidden so my kids couldn't see. And just I'd be bawling my eyes out and sobbing because it was grief. I was losing my old life. All of the friends I had, everything was just going away. People were yelling at me over my balcony. They didn't want me to live here, that I should move. And
wow.
It was, I'm like, you guys, I'm the best person I've ever been in my whole life. And now you all hate me. Come on.
I don't understand. Wait, so your neighbors were involved in this too?
Well, yeah, because we all lived in the same neighborhood, me and my best friend of 12 years. And so she went and told everybody.
Wow. That's fantastic. No,
they've all moved out now, so it's fine. But that was my worst nightmare. On my step 4, the top thing was I didn't feel wanted. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel like anybody cared about me or wanted me around. And so that kept hurting my feelings over and over and over and over again. Someone could have punched me in the face and stole my car, but if they invited me to a party, it was all good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just wanted to be wanted and included so bad. And this is I walked through my worst nightmare, that section of my journey of recovery.
Yep.
And it was so painful. So much stuff came up, but I didn't pick up a drink over it. I don't even know how. I cried and I stayed on the phone and I talked to people until they were annoyed with me. I couldn't be alone with my thinking. I've heard somebody recently say your brain's a scary place to go. Don't go alone. And that really has saved my life through my recovery. Just don't go in there alone. Keep talking about it. I started listening to Pastor Rick Warren was a big one in my early recovery. I'd listen to his podcast and just be like, "Okay, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay." Just
love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I got through that stuff. And then, we got married and that was incredible. My dad walked me down the aisle. And that was a big healing journey for me. My dad was someone I felt really hurt by because he wasn't around. And when he was around, he made me feel like the most important person on planet Earth and made me feel so loved. And then he would just be gone for a few months. And I'd be like, where are you?
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
back. Why can't you be here? Like, why can't you just be with me? And, we had our wedding on an island that he lived on, and it was so small and so intimate and just so beautiful. And then we decided to have a baby. I had 2 kids already, and I grew up with 4 little brothers, and then I had 2 sons. And so I really, really, really wanted a girl.
I'll bet.
Yeah. And I'm like, let's just try one more time for a girl. And I was like sober, and I had just lost all this weight, and I was like super healthy. And so I'm like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And then we tried once, and then I was freaked out because my middle son, he was like just starting school. He was potty trained, like life was getting easier. And I'm like, why are we starting over again?
Mm-hmm.
But then that turned into
As soon
a
as
baby.
the stability comes, let's rock the boat a little bit. Things are going a little too smooth. I need some chaos in my life.
Exactly. That was it. And so then we stopped trying, but it was too late. So, but it was amazing. And I ended up finding out we were having a girl, which was just like the most incredible day. Like the joy that I felt.
Congrats. Yeah, that's awesome.
It was so cool. Like all my dreams are coming true, but I ended up getting super, super sick during that pregnancy. And then I got so depressed. And because I was like sick and throwing up anyway, I was like, bring on the KFC. Like, why are we still a whole food vegan? Like, sticking to this diet plan. You're pregnant. This is the time. Like, just, get it. And so my food addiction ramped up like so intense. And I got really, really, really depressed, which was so hard for me to wrap my head around because I'm like sober. Like, what do you mean I'm depressed? Like, all my dreams are coming true. I'm a great human being. Why am I feeling this? And I started doubting that God was real. And I, ended up on bed rest for a month with that pregnancy. And I had just gotten so much validation from showing up in my recovery community and being there for everyone and being at everyone's cake and, just giving myself my time, my energy, doing service. Like that gave me so much validation and so much purpose, and all of it was gone. And I just didn't know what to do. And also I was helping people get healthy and lose weight and like show that you don't need to eat sugar and you don't have to stay stuck in food addiction. And then that's out the window. So I'm like, what is my purpose?
Felt like a hypocrite?
Yeah. Well, I just felt like I had nothing left. I'm like, okay, so you got me sober to just knock me back down? Like, what are we doing here?
I'm curious because during that time, pregnancy and all that stuff, would you say your meeting attendance and things of that sort and your connection with the ladies in the program, like, was it still, consistent with what it normally was?
No, it was definitely dropping. I was having a hard time getting to meetings. I was having really bad dizzy spells, so I wasn't able to just show up and be involved in anything the way I used to be. I had women that came to my house. We had a meeting when I was on bed rest and stuff, but that was like one time in a month that I had that. So the phone was still a big support. That's actually when I really got into podcasts, listening to them and hearing stories. And so I prayed for God to just give me a purpose. I was like, I need something. Like, I don't know what I'm meant to do here. Why did you get me sober? And I was like taking a shower, and that's where I like to meditate. And I heard the words, "Your story, my glory." I was like, what does this mean? And after that,
I love that.
Yeah, it was so powerful. Like, I don't know, like I just felt like, okay, like there's something here for me. I don't know what it is, but so then I ended up starting a podcast soon after that, and it was called Seek Purpose. And we talked about stories and how we turn pain into purpose. And I got to meet some amazing, incredible, inspiring people in recovery or healing from mental health. One person that had survived a plane crash, and like just like the most incredible stuff. And all of them kept asking like, oh, who's doing your website? Who's doing your editing? Who's doing whatever? And I was like, well, that's me. Like, that's
so you learned on your own, or did you go to school for it? Or
so in grade 7, I actually got to go to something called the Women in Technology Conference. My school like nominated me to go. So I learned how to build a website in grade 7. And then I was like building my mom's website and doing her like karaoke brochures and stuff while I was still in like high school. And it's just something I enjoyed doing. And I was definitely self-taught. Since then, I've done like branding courses and stuff to kind of refine my skills. But yeah, it was just something I learned how to do myself. I had a thrift store for a little while as well. And so I did all the branding for our thrift store and like just learned I have ADHD. So when I'm into something and interested in something, I can learn it really quickly. And technology has always been one of those things. So yeah, that's kind of how that Sober Biz Collective started, was just like people asking for help and support with their own stuff. And then I was doing that for free and just offering everything that I'd learned, trying to figure it out myself. And, you know, like a few years into that podcast, I think we were just about to hit our 100th episode and, or 100 or 200, 100 episodes. We were just like, it was episode 99. Oh, it was right before that actually. Okay, let's backtrack. I started the podcast. I'm going through postpartum depression. My father-in-law, my husband's dad, we found out he had cancer and was going through chemo treatment. And then that was in January. And then in March, the entire world shuts down for a pandemic. So I'm at postpartum depression, have this baby that's just turning 1. My husband's dad's going through chemo. I have this podcast going on. We were actually meeting in person and in a studio at first to record. So everything got moved online. I was back to having panic attacks almost daily. I was on the phone with crisis hotlines like every single night. My mental health took a huge dive.
Wow.
Yeah. And I really, really, really struggled. And, you know, things just started kind of getting opened up again where we were allowed to see each other in person outside. And I celebrated my 4 years sober, and my son's birthday and my sobriety date are really close together. So we had like a birthday party for him and a sobriety celebration for me at my mom's house in her backyard. And, you know, my brother, he was 19 when I got sober, and he was really starting to get a problem. Like his drinking was becoming a problem, and he was using marijuana and Xanax, and that was becoming a problem. And I was like trying to give him recovery and be like, hey, like, you don't have to do this. Like, life is amazing. Like, you don't have to stay stuck here. You can get help for like the anxiety and all this stuff. Like, you don't have to use. And I gave him all of my best AA and did all the codependent things and did the whole like tough love thing and tried to cut him out of my life. And I went through that whole journey with him. And anyways, he was there at my 4-year little celebration thing, and we were talking, and he had 2 days sober, and he was like trying to go to meetings, and his girlfriend was in recovery and she was taking
That's amazing.
Yeah. So he had 2 days sober, and already the light was back in his eyes. And it was like, I've got my little brother back, and he's 10 years younger than me. And he was like playing with my kids and just being this amazing uncle. It was a beautiful sunny day. He's like twerking upside down. We're doing TikToks together. He's twerking upside down on a wall and stuff. And we're laughing and just having the best time. And I was just like, I just had this like release of like, oh, I don't have to worry about my brother, you know, like I can relax. And then 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from my mom at 9 a.m. His boss came to get him from work, and he didn't get up. And the paramedics came and they couldn't revive him. And he lived in her basement suite, and she was there with him just bawling and sobbing. And I'm listening to my mom, and my husband's at work, and I don't have a car, and I don't know how to get there. And I don't know if we're going to be able to have a funeral because it's the middle of a pandemic. And everything was just so intense. And you know, my husband rushed home from work when I called him, and I got there as fast as I could before they took my brother away. And I was just like laying on his body and praying for God to wake him up. And I just thought, like, God does miracles. He's done so many miracles in my life. Like, I got sober to get my brother sober, so he wasn't going to have to go. Like, I was going to be the chain breaker, the generational curse stopper. Like, this was on my shoulders. Like, I was going to save him and the rest of my family from having to go through this anymore. It was going to stop with me. This can't be true. This can't be real. And I was praying for God to wake him up. And I was sure, like absolutely fucking no doubt that God was going to wake him up. Like, that's how much I believed, and I trusted in this higher power. And I was like, there's no way this is the story. Like, he's going to get up. But he didn't. And, you know, before they took him away, I just started praying. I'm like, hey, well, God, you better use his story to save millions of people so that other families don't have to feel this pain, because it is excruciating. Like it is. My brothers were like my kids. I helped raise them. I took them on weekends for my mom, and like I was like their co-parent. And like it was like losing a kid. Like it was so devastating. And I stopped believing after that. Like I really had a hard time trusting a higher power and believing that God's will for my life was better than my will. Cause I'm like, if this is your will, like, I don't want it. Like you take it back. Like,
I hear that often around those type of circumstances. It makes sense to me for sure. And I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
This segment of the Pull Podcast is brought to you by Bayview Recovery. Did they ever determine what I mean, I imagine what the cause was, but did they say specifically, was it an OD or?
Yeah. So what had happened is his girlfriend relapsed, and her DOC was a much harder substance than my brother had ever done before. And because it was the pandemic, there was no actual like heroin or anything getting over the borders. It was all fentanyl. That's all that was here.
Okay.
And so they found out it was fentanyl and cocaine that was in his system.
Wow.
And and it was, he didn't really do that kind of stuff. He did Xanax and he did weed and he drank too much, but he'd never gotten to the depths that I had gotten in my addiction. I really thought he was going to get this earlier and not have to struggle as much as I did,
Mm-hmm.
But, after that, I kind of started turning to people to be my higher power and which I don't recommend. It turns out that human beings make terrible gods.
Mm-hmm. We're fallible.
Yeah, we're not good at it. So I struggled for a long time. I tried to live on my own will. And then like 2 years later, they found my uncle overdosed in his car, and my grandma was
holy mackerel,
a mess. She was devastated. I was on my way to an event called Soberfest. I was just about to get on a ferry to go to this island. And when we got the call, and I was just like, I couldn't take anymore. I was like, what the hell is all of this for? Like, why am I here? It's just so much pain. And, I prayed. I hadn't really prayed in a long time. I did my little things, but not intentionally. It was just like to check the thing off the list. Right.
Sure. It was, habitual.
Yeah. So I really prayed like from my gut, and I was just like, God, I need a sign. Like, show me you're still here. Show me you're still with me. Like, what the hell is going on? I don't know how to do this anymore. I have to drink, or I have to do something. Like, I don't want to live with this pain. And while I was praying, 7 eagles flew over my car, like just in circles. And there was like 7 people in my family that had passed away at that point. And there was just like these eagles over my car. And I was like, wow, like that's an incredible sign. But what the hell does that mean? Like, I need something a little clearer.
I don't know. I would have just taken the fact that happened as like,
it was magical.
Yeah.
But it gets even cooler.
I'm listening. I'm on the edge of my seat right now.
So we drive we're staying in an Airbnb on this island, and we drive into this lot. And as we get there, the gate has a huge eagle statue that welcomes you into this like lot, right? Yeah. So we get to our Airbnb cabin, and right outside our cabin, there's another huge eagle statue carved out of wood. Mm-hmm. And I just had this feeling like, okay, you're on the right path. You're being guided. Just keep looking for eagles, sort of thing. So I went and did this thing at Soberfest and got home and ended up going to church, which I had not done in years. Like since my brother had passed away, I had not been going to church. I had not been involved in any kind of religion stuff. I started doing tarot cards and just went a totally different direction.
Yeah.
I did an astrology course. I got certified in tarot card reading. I was
nice.
Made it my whole personality. I didn't think I was ever going to step foot in a church again, but my car literally just drove me there because I used to go to this breakfast meeting and then I'd go to church, and that was my Sunday routine. And so I went to this breakfast meeting, and then all of a sudden I just ended up at church. I didn't even know how I got there. Mm-hmm. And I walk in, and the frickin' sermon is about the symbolism of the eagle in the Bible. And it's about God carrying you back to him and like Unreal. On his wings. I was just like, wow. Like I was sobbing, bawling my eyes out the whole thing. And that was kind of like my new spiritual awakening. It started kind of a new chapter in my recovery journey. And So that was like 2 years ago. It was 2022. So almost 3 years ago, I guess. And yeah, I've just been building from there, a new kind of spiritual connection. And just actually 2 months ago yesterday, I lost my dad.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. We found out he got cancer in October. And yeah, and he passed away March 15th. So it was just like, again, the hardest time in my life.
All over again.
But this time I did have my higher power. Like I had worked so hard over the last few years to get reconnected, to get back in the middle of my program, to get, it's a different connection than it's an evolution of a spiritual, higher power. It's somewhere between Christian and crystals. I don't really know, but
I like that.
Yeah, I'm like finding out what that means for me. But I was just so determined to stay connected to whatever it is. I was working on another set of steps and like got a new sponsor and just like was working really, really hard on my recovery. So I felt so supported through that journey of losing my dad and being able to be there for him. And everything just fell into place. Like we got this huge tax return. So I was able to go visit him. He's 2 ferry rides away, but we had enough money to go see him. And, I just got the longest, most amazing conversations with him on the phone all the time. We talked about everything. And, I honestly had nothing but love for him, which is hard because it was like one of my biggest things when I came into recovery was like, my dad wasn't there. Like he wasn't there. And I just wanted him in my life so bad. And I just felt so abandoned. And like to think of coming in as that person and then being there at his bedside as he's passing away and just having absolutely nothing but love for him and just so much gratitude for the man he was when I was with him. Like every time I saw him, he made me feel like the most important person on planet Earth. He made me feel so loved and beautiful. Like he never had a bad word to say to me. He gave me 100% of himself, like every time I saw him. And I started thinking like, if things were different and he was in my life constantly, maybe he couldn't have given himself like that. Maybe he was only around when he could give me 100% because he didn't want to give me any less,
Interesting perspective, right?
Yeah. And I talked to people who had dads that lived with them and that just don't even talk to their dads, that said they put too much pressure on them and they felt like they never measured up and like all these different things. And like, I had such a great experience with my dad when I got to be with him. Like, it was just like, I knew he loved me so much. And my biggest like thing to be mad at him about was that he just wasn't there enough. Like, I wanted to feel him loving me more,
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, there's something to be said about being able to, walk through that and make sure that there's nothing left unsaid before the passing, right? I mean, That's really a cool thing.
It was beautiful. And I think like going through losing my brother so suddenly like that, it was such a different experience. And
sure.
Honestly, like the day he passed, there's so many cool signs. Like, I asked God to be there with me. Like when I was going to the island to the palliative care unit, I was like, God, I need to know you're here. I need to know you're here. Like, show me you're here. Like, part the clouds. It was a pouring, raining, awful day. Like, part the clouds just for even a second, just to show me you're here. Clouds parted. There's this beam of light going onto the ocean, like when we're driving to this ferry. And then we get on the ferry and there's just like this gorgeous sunset and there's this golden path that's lighting the way towards where we're going. And like at the hospital, I was like singing to my dad and, I stopped singing and the TV goes, and then I go and spoil it all by saying something stupid like, I love you. Like, Dad, is that you?
That's so cool.
Right before he passed, I like was going to lie down. I'm like, Dad, I'm just going to take a nap. And we had been watching funny movies all day and playing all his favorite music. And on the TV, the Masked Singer came on and this puppet thing starts singing, Don't Fear the Reaper. And then right after that, my dad started taking his last breath. Like, it was just so wild. And, I was so afraid of that moment. Like, death is the scariest thing in the world. I was so scared of that moment. I was so scared of grieving again because after I went through with my brother, like, it was so hard. And I didn't feel like a good mom to my kids after that. Like, I just didn't feel like myself for so long. And I was so scared of going through that again. And it's such a deep loss, right? And that moment was like one of the most beautiful moments of my entire life. It reminded me of when I had my first son and held him for the first time. And there was just like this outpouring of love that you can't even describe. And it was just like that. Like I was holding my dad and all I felt was love just fill the room. Like he went from being in his body to absolutely everywhere. And it was like the coolest, most amazing experience. And I mean, obviously sad and devastating, and I miss him, but I'm just so grateful. I can't even imagine if I was drinking. Like
I was just going to add that.
Yeah.
I was just going to add that. Imagine if you weren't able to be present for that. You would have been kicking yourself for the rest of your life and possibly had to drink over it even more, right? It would have maybe been fuel to the fire. Thank you for sharing that. This segment of the Pull Podcast is brought to you by Santa Barbara Recovery. As much loss as I've dealt with, it's mostly people that I've met in the rooms and things of that sort, in terms of like people that like have been in my life, my whole life, and like my support system, and people who I idolize and hold in regard like you did your brother and your father. But like, you know, I haven't lost too many of those people yet. And I always like, you know, I've been close, you know, they've had some close encounters with it. And it's scary for sure. And I often wonder, like, and I always ponder, like, you know, will I be able to have that perspective that I have on a lot of other things? I guess the question in my mind that I always ask myself is like, we don't always understand why things are happening, because it takes retrospect for us to be able to understand them, which means like, I'll just speak for myself. I want an answer right then and there on why something's happening, and I won't always get it. And it usually takes about, I don't know, month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, or maybe even longer sometimes for you to realize if that didn't happen, then none of this would be possible. Trying to remember that in the moment is probably one of the hardest things that I've struggled with. And I applaud you because you sound way stronger than I am. It took me practically on the verge of death. I had to run out of all hustle, and I had to be faced with like the actual fear of dying. And that's the other thing is like, at that point, I kind of wanted to. It's just such a scary, scary place to be when you have all these like insurmountable or like seemingly insurmountable hurdles in front of you. And then to go back, I mean, you had even mentioned your 30th birthday. You had like this, you knew you were going to drink. Like I always told myself, if my dad passed, like I know there's no way I'm going to have no defense. He's 42 years sober. Like in my head, like I say, I'm going to have a drink when he dies because I don't know what else I'm going to do. But he's 42 years sober. The last thing I'm going to want to do is drink because it's like slapping him in his face, right? Besides him and my mom, like the two people that never give up on you, like they should be celebrated for it, and like being able to be present for him at the end there. Like that's just a beautiful story. I mean, everybody should have that, you know, and that's a gift in a lot of ways, right? If it was going to happen, at least it happened that way, right? Unfortunately, loss is inevitable, and it takes, I think, being present to appreciate it, despite it not necessarily being what we want.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it would have been the same. Like going through the loss of my brother was a totally different experience. It was my first time losing someone that close and that important to me. And it's kind of like your first love. Like it's so intense when you first fall in love, and then all the other ones after that are kind of easier to navigate. But it was the same with grief. Like the first grief for me, that was so intense. It took me down for years. Like I was not okay mentally, physically, spiritually. I was really stuck in food addiction. I was miserable and, you know, made it my family's problem. It took a lot of healing and growth. And I became the strongest version of me I've ever been or ever even thought I could be in my life after that. Because once you walk through your worst nightmares and you don't give up, like you really do change. It changes everything. And I'm not scared of feelings anymore because I've felt such deep feelings. I was throwing up like from grief, from just like my whole life flipping upside down overnight and just not knowing how to even live in reality. And like I literally would throw up from grief, from pain, from feelings. Like it was just feelings, but it was physical. I felt that and I've lived through it and I've survived it. And so now I'm not scared of it anymore. Like I know I can feel deeply and then I'm going to survive and I'm going to be okay. And I can trust myself now. Like I can say yes to things because I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get through it. And I know that. And I'm not alone. I don't have to do any of it alone. So I feel like with that feeling of support, whether it's from a higher power or community or whatever, it's like you really can do anything.
Absolutely. And your story is evidence of it, right? It's not just you giving it lip service. This is what happened. This is like your experience, and it's a true story, and somebody's going to use that as power as well, right? And so like you sharing that is such a powerful thing because it may be somebody's roadmap in the future to navigate that situation where they normally may have gone off the rails or something along those lines, right? Because, we're talking about really tough stuff. We're talking about things that most people need something to buffer it, and you didn't, and that's amazing. And I'm grateful that you're able to be vulnerable like that. It's huge. So I imagine that's like a big catalyst in catapulting. Like, I don't know about you, but I also have that feeling where I feel limitless in a lot of ways, right? Like I really do. Like getting through some of the hardest stuff that you've been describing, although I haven't been through as much of it as you, I've had my own version of those type of battles, and just being on the other side of them makes me feel, especially being sober, the potential is unlimited. And I really do want to see what I'm capable of. What can I do next? And saying yes to stuff is really important, but I really want to hear more about this sober biz stuff because, I mean, aside from the website and graphics and all those other things, like there's some coaching involved in things. Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working, the Sober Biz Collective is my business. And like I was sharing earlier, when I was doing that podcast, so many people were coming to me and they're asking me for help with their websites and logos and things like that. So it just kind of happened. I just kind of started doing things for other people and then started charging for it and turned it into a business. And I had this dream of really creating a community for sober entrepreneurs to thrive and share with each other and talk about the struggles. I feel like entrepreneurship, it's like a whole nother level of healing. Like sobriety is going to show you a lot about yourself because you have to like toughen through all these things you used to drink over, right? Relationships, marriage will show you a lot about yourself, like trying to figure out how to navigate that. And then business has shown me so much about myself, what I still need to work on, where my character defects are.
Amen.
I'm still insecure about all that kind of stuff. There's such a journey with that. So I really wanted to create a space to talk about it. I started a new podcast called the Sober Biz Collective, and started talking to people about those journeys while I was also working on web design and brand coaching, helping people kind of come up with a brand ecosystem. And so that was how it started. It has evolved into networking events and like in-person speaking engagements where I have a sober entrepreneur come and share about their journey in person with a group of people. And then we have some kind of activity to do together. I love having some kind of craft or something to do with our hands because I feel like when we're in community with each other without alcohol, we need like something to kind of break the ice and get the mood going.
Yeah, we all have ADD, like you said, right? Yeah. I have my fidget toy right here, like literally, like you can't hear it in the background, but this thing's been going for about 45 minutes now.
I love it. I can't believe how many people have ADHD. I just got diagnosed when I was 33 and 38 now. And yeah, it's like everyone I'm meeting in recovery, we're all figuring it out. But it makes so much sense because
I think it may be a catalyst to maybe why we drank or used it in the first place to some degree, right? It's just a version of a self-medication. That's a whole nother subject if we were to ever have you back on the show. But yeah, I mean, it's very common, right? You hear the term dual diagnosis or co-occurring disorders. And I'm thinking to myself, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Who's to say whether we're alcoholics because we have alcoholism in our family, or we just discover that alcohol is a decent solution for some of these things temporarily until we realize that it's progressive and it's trying to kill us, Yeah. You know the stages, right? There's fun with problems, and then there's problems. It's just the way it goes. That's the progression of the whole thing. And if you're an alcoholic of my type, which is pretty much garden variety, I drank as long as I absolutely could. And then I was pretty much done. Like that's just it. Like there was nothing. It was either continue drinking and die, or get sober. I mean, those were the options for me. So when you talk about these networking events and things of that sort, do you put them on and host them yourself? Is it things that are in the industry? Are you talking to professionals? Are you going into businesses like HR companies? Help me understand.
So currently I've partnered with a little community bottle shop called Bevies, and it's like all sober beverages, and they have a tasting bar and a little lounge area. So I do most of my events there and just invite people in the community that are wanting to do business booze free. We call it an unbuzzed biz culture.
I love that.
And
That's
like, I just
catchy.
find that people in recovery, especially, like not just sober people, but like in recovery, especially, like we get sober and a lot of us haven't had someone hand anything to us. Like we've had to figure it out ourselves. We had to get scrappy. A lot of us don't have a lot of disposable income when we first get here. So it's like,
No, a lot of debt,
a lot of like hopelessness around business and around being employable and all these kind of things, especially with ADHD. I don't know how many jobs I went through, right? And just feeling like I can't stick to anything. My self-esteem's in the toilet. I don't feel reliable. And I'm trying to rebuild that. And so I wanted to create a community of people who could come together and get messy and make mistakes and be imperfect and learn and figure it out together. So that, like, kind of just bringing recovery into the business world, into entrepreneurship. So I feel like in the rooms is where I learned how to be in conflict with people and then work through it. And then in my life with my family or my friends outside of recovery and my coworkers, I had better skills because I had been practicing them in recovery with people, like how to, speak in public, how to do all these things. Like I got to practice somewhere and then I can bring those tools into other places in my life. And so I wanted to do that with business, like have a place where we can practice and talk about the messy stuff. And I'm just actually in the middle of a rebrand myself. I've kind of taken a step back with my dad being sick and my grandma's in the hospital now. So I created a lot of space for myself this year. I am fortunate enough I could anticipate that this was going to be a difficult one for me. So I kind of put down my clients and doing the web design work for now. And I'm creating a lot of space so I can have these feelings, grieve, do what I need to do. And I'm so fortunate enough that I'm able to do that. So right now what I'm focusing on is rebranding my business and then creating a suite for people to go and purchase like a template for their website, their podcast website or whatever, so that I'm doing less one-on-one work and I've got more space in my life and hopefully can scale that business because it's something I talk to people about all the time, but I never practice myself.
Oh, isn't that funny? But you're talking about scaling it. And that's the thing is we only have so much time, right? There's only 24 hours in a day and your time is super valuable. Scaling it is probably one of the hardest things I've had to learn in recovery. And the fact that I didn't even think I would own a business. I'm not even college educated. Even though I was always a relatively smart kid, I never wanted to be in school. I never really wanted to like focus on that because I never saw the value in it for whatever reason. I just wanted to go outside and play. I'm old enough to where I'm the era where we actually went outside and played still. But yeah, I never thought that would be possible. I figured I'd be punching a clock or working for somebody my whole life. And I'm grateful of being able to like try these things. And you said I fall a lot too, but like at the same time, I wouldn't have it any other way because I get to pretty much dictate how my life goes and what my day looks like today. Talk about another freedom, right? That catapulted my freedoms. I had freedom when the obsession was relieved after doing the steps or whatever. That was freedom. And then you talk about, you were saying getting married and having kids. And then there's a whole nother freedom in the entrepreneurship and the business aspect of it that you were saying. I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it's really cool that you're doing that. I definitely hope we get a chance to stay in touch. And unless there's anything else that you had for me, I just really wanted to just give you my sincere appreciation for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you. I'm actually just relaunching my podcast. So it's the Sober Biz podcast. And I'd love to have you on too and just come share your story and journey with entrepreneurship and recovery.
That would be awesome. I would love that. I'd take any invitation to do that. Like I said, I'm still working out the nerves and I still got my fidget toy. I may have to upgrade after this, but
get a silent one.
I'll tell you what, you've made it very easy. You are very easy to talk to. I think you make an excellent podcast host and I look forward to following you.
Thank you so much. It was so great to meet you.
Likewise. Have a wonderful day and God bless.